And hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week show brought to you by Baseball Talk Radio. We have all the greatest stories in the week of baseball for you, our listeners. And hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week Podcast brought to you by myself. I'm Rich.
And I'm Gary.
And Gary, we have 100 shows in the bag as of this show.
Wow, and they said it wouldn't last, and we hit triple figures, Rich.
They said it couldn't be done, and what a great feeling it is to go for our 100th show. And we even have a special announcement for our listeners.
Yes, certainly, Rich.
And why don't you let all of our listeners know that special announcement?
Well, there has been some questions going on because we do cover the world of baseball, and some people got confused with the name because it's MLB This Week, and we like to cover different stories and in the world of baseball. So we have decided to rebrand the show with a new title, a new name, and that name will be the Baseball Talk Radio Show. And that'll start within next week, maybe, Rich?
I believe so. Yeah, we're going to have it launching next week. Most of our listeners won't even know the difference. We're going to have the same feeds, so you shouldn't have to adjust your iTunes listenership or your Stitcher Radio if you listen to us from there. We'll have new show links up that'll automatically kick in, so you shouldn't have to change anything. We're just going to go with a new and improved name. It'll be all of the same great content, and hopefully we can even add some better content for our listeners as we go forward. And we appreciate everybody that's been listening for so long now. 100 shows is pretty long in the podcast world anymore.
It certainly is, Rich. You look out there, and there's a lot of pod fading going on. People do the show for a while, find out that it's a lot of work, and then bail out on it. And as you say, to get to 100 shows, it's really quite an accomplishment now. And of course, you've got well over that for your Phillies talk, and I am at 253 and counting with Mets Musing. So we've been doing a lot of shows over the last 8-10 years, Rich. So, but it's nice to have 100 in. We just felt like it'd be a good breaking point and a good rebranding point. But as Rich said, there's nothing that you have to do. Everything's going to be the same. It's just a different name, and maybe a little bit different topics. Maybe we'll just take a few less topics and maybe more interviews we're going to try to work in. Sometimes it becomes a little difficult because you have to set up with people, and with us both working full-time jobs, you can't do it every week. But we're going to try to get some interesting people in and talk some baseball.
Yep, and that's what we've been doing now for the past couple of years on the MLB This Week show. And again, we want to thank everybody out there. We have a lot of listeners across the USA. They take us along for the ride with them to their workplaces. They listen to us wherever they go. So we want to thank them as well. Over in Europe, we have a lot of listeners, thanks to Gary Mack and his Mets Musing show. And I know there's a lot of Mets fans over there in England that listen to us, and they listen to this show as well, and as well as Mets Musing. So again, thank you for staying with us, and we hope you'll enjoy the next 100 episodes of the great Baseball Talk Radio Show, as we're going to call it.
Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to it. It should be very fascinating.
Well, the big news, of course, this week, we've got an extra day to do it, but the trade deadline coming up pretty soon here. We've got only, about three 3+ days to go on it. And Gary, it's been a little light so far.
A little light, yeah. But lots of rumors, and even the rumors have been a little light. But it's starting to really come out, Rich. You hear a lot more. I'm sure that you've been hearing them in Philadelphia about different things. The big thing here is there was a report today that Jonathan LaCroix has been acquired by the Mets. That's been squelched. I haven't heard anything since that one report. They are talking. That's about all of that came out afterwards. So who knows? A lot of rumors. The Marlins made a big deal. They brought in Andrew Kashner and Colin Ray, I think it is, and I forget who they traded to Miami. I'm sorry, Miami brought in the Cashman and Ray from San Diego, and I don't know who went the other way, but it's all listed, and of course some small deals made. Nunez went from Minnesota to San Francisco. So there is some movement, Rich, but a lot of speculating and a lot of talk right now.
Yeah, that was a 7-player trade there with the Miami Marlins and the San Diego Padres. Looks like Miami is sending Jared Cosart, top first base prospect Josh Naylor, minor league righty Luis Castillo, and an injured reliever, Carter Capps, who underwent Tommy John surgery earlier this year to San Diego. So not a whole lot, not an earth-breaking trade there for the Marlins, but they did try to shore up their bullpen a little bit and their starting pitching, of course. Maybe they're thinking on making a run here as we get into, say, the final 8 weeks of baseball. But, yeah, I was expecting a lot more bigger deals. Of course, earlier in the week, we had Aroldis Chapman going over to the Cubs from the Yankees, and that was a huge acquisition by the Cubs.
Yeah, that was the link that they needed. They needed a closer, and they got a pretty decent one, I would say. But we'll see what happens as this weekend goes along. This is going to be the nail-biting weekend right up to Sunday night, and it's Monday at 5 o'clock is the deadline this year?
Yeah, I believe so. There's an extra day in it going over to the 1st, ending on the 1st, I believe. And, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Not too many big names thrown around right now. I guess Chapman's your biggest name that's been traded so far, but as far as big trade deals, not too much to report so far.
Yeah, that's for sure. But Rich, though, I kind of miss when it was at midnight. Because then you'd be hanging around, listening to the radio or the TV, at 10 to 12 and 5 to 12, and waiting for your team's name to be called. That they made a deal at the last minute, and now it's kind of 5 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever it is, 4 o'clock, whatever. I don't know. It's kind of takes that romanticism, if you will, out of it. But it's always an interesting speculatory time, and we'll see what happens the next few days.
Yeah, and that late night activity, of course, I think a lot of that went to make the papers for the next day years ago. Yeah. And as you said, now it's nice and early, so some of them players could probably get on a plane and end up at their team by the next game, wherever they happen to go. So,
yeah, they're close enough.
Well, getting into our first story of the week here, it does concern Aroldis Chapman, of course. The top flight New York Yankees reliever was traded on Monday out to the Cubs. He's sporting a 2.01 ERA and 20 saves. He pushed back Hector Rondon from the club's closer role. Rondon wasn't doing too bad either. 1.95 ERA and 18 saves. So did the Cubs really need him? But an interesting story this week, Gary, actually appeared in Rolling Stone magazine. Now, it's not a music story, but it's, of course, a story on Chapman himself, saying basically that the Cubs fans should be ecstatic, but Chapman may come with a lot of strings. Of course, earlier this year, he allegedly choked his girlfriend at a party. He received a 30-game suspension to begin the 2016 season under the recently implemented policy on domestic violence. And it doesn't end there. It goes back to a couple of years ago, actually last year, October 30th, a girlfriend again called 911 on Chapman. They were at a party at his Florida home, and she had confronted him about a text message he had allegedly received from another woman, and he went bonkers, going out to his shed, firing a gun off several times. He was not charged with the crime in that situation, but basically this article is leading to the fact that Aroldis may be a loose cannon, to say the least. So it'll be interesting to see if he can calm down and sort of behave himself here while he's in Chicago.
I wonder if he brought his guns with him out to the Windy City.
I would think probably did. He's only 28 years of age. I guess you could chalk a lot of that up to maybe youth. But, yeah, it certainly seems like he's more on the violent side, firing a gun off into the air, supposedly, and into an item around his yard after that altercation. I think if you or I did that, Gary, we'd still be answering for that.
In front of a judge, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the modern day ball player now. I mean, I guess years ago you didn't hear a lot of the stuff. I'm sure there was guys that smacked their wives or girlfriends in the old days, but it wasn't reported. You didn't have a 24-hour news cycle. You didn't have all the internet stuff. Doesn't make it right, of course, but it's a different world, and these guys have to learn to live in it and be more careful with that kind of stuff, and watch out for your anger and keep it under wraps, because everybody's going to know about it. Everybody's got a video camera in their phone now, and you really can't get away with anything anymore.
So it'll be interesting to follow Chapman as he progresses here in his Chicago career. And basically the article itself said, Chicago fans, how is your conscience with this signing? We know he can throw 100 miles an hour. We know he's probably pound for pound the best reliever in baseball right now, but how is your conscience about this signing? So a very interesting article there in Rolling Stone. They're usually give some thought-provoking articles, and this certainly, based on sports, of course, this one ranks up there.
Well, Rich, I think your conscience ends with a 100 miles per hour fastball in a tight spot. So,
yep.
Let's just leave it at that.
I think the Cubs are going to, benefit from the signing. We'll have to see. Hopefully, Chapman behaves and learns from these experiences. Again, you or I did it. I don't think we'd be in the same boat, or any one of our listeners. We'd probably in a different boat, but we'll see. Anyway, we're going on with the show here, and you have an interesting story about the Hall of Fame has been in the news recently.
Well, Rich, last week was the induction of the Hall of Fame, and two great players, two worthy players of Hall of Fame to be in the Hall of Fame. Mike Piazza, of course, the New York Mets catcher and the Dodgers catcher, and Ken Griffey Jr., the great Seattle Mariner and Cincinnati Reds outfielder and home run hitter. And And Rich, if you got to see it, it was probably one of the best that I've seen in a long time. The speeches were just were fantastic. Mike Piazza was very, very, very good. Ken Griffey was good, not his element, but he gave a good speech, and it's really thankfully both their parents are still alive, so they were there, and that's always a great thing. They can enjoy it with them and have them celebrate along with the rest of the family. And it was just a terrific day, and I think it was the second largest crowd ever. They had over 50,000 people, so very big success, very good for the game. It all ran off flawlessly, and it's an A+ for the game. And they do such a great job in that small little town in upstate New York that they really deserve kudos for the job they do every year and how special they make it for all of those players. And it was just a great day to watch the ceremonies and to really revel in the game of baseball.
Yes, indeed. A great time for both players. Of course, Griffey, the highest vote getter of any Hall of Famer. I believe one of the highest ever voted the first time in. So, and Mike Piazza, he's had a long road to get into the Hall of Fame. Some doubted that he would make it. Had been mentioned in the steroid rap, but apparently that did not enter into the writer's decision to put him into the Hall of Fame. So he's now one of baseball immortals, as is Griffey. And again, as we've been saying on the show the last couple of years, if you have never been to Cooperstown, you owe yourself a nice trip because it's really it's great for a baseball fan. That's about the best I could say about it.
It certainly is, Rich. It's we're hoping to go up this fall, and maybe we can do a little video that we can play on the show in the fall. But yeah, it's a terrific place, and it's a beautiful little town as well. And they, as I say, they just do a fantastic job. Anybody you talk to that either was up there for the ceremony or even the players are just overwhelmed with the way they're treated like royalty for the and it's a long weekend thing for these guys. I mean, they get up there, Tuesday or Wednesday of the week, and they have a golf tournament or charity golf tournament. I believe there's a couple of clinics they do for kids, and it's just a fun week for these guys. And they will sign autographs. I think they go to different places all throughout the town and sign. And sometimes there's other people, like Pete Rose shows up and he rents a table or however they do it in front of some store and he signs. An author that I know, Eric Sherman, he was up there for that weekend signing his book, The Kings of Queens. So it's a big to do up there, and it's a small little village, but they do a great job, and they've been doing it so long, and really do a terrific job.
Yes, they do. So, and I even remember the name of a great restaurant. If you're up there, I'm not too sure it's still open. It was a couple years ago, but I'm pretty sure it is, called the Pepper Mill. So if you're in the town of Cooperstown, look it up, the Pepper Mill. They serve a great steak and a nice beer, as I remember it.
I am writing it down as we speak right now, and I'll put it into my notes when we make our pilgrimage, if you will.
Very good. Well, baseball has seen some funny things this year, and this year, of course, in June, Jose Abreu was chasing a foul ball when one and only Miguel Cabrera stepped out of the dugout and asked Abreu to come for a hug and a kiss. If you're watching our video version of the show, you can see some of the replay of it. Jose did not listen to Cabrera. He was playing like the role of a bat boy. going out and offering him a hug. But this one here, this story, fast forwards to last week with the Atlanta Braves, who were taking on the Phillies. Just Thursday night's game, there was a foul ball hit into left field, and Chase Darno was chasing after it. He ran up to the left field wall where a fan reached over and grabbed it, and Darno actually came up and looked like he had given the fan a kiss after he caught the ball. You can find the video on this online. It's hilarious. There's only a few news outlets that have been reporting on this, but it's very hilarious, and it's plain to see that Darno went right up to him and actually gave him a kiss on the cheek.
Oh my gosh.
So a lot of love going around the world of baseball. Maybe that's what it needs a little bit there, but very odd story there, and I'm sure Darno maybe did not mean to kiss him, but on the replay, it's plain to see that he does. So very interesting story there with the Atlanta Braves.
And I guess with the way their season's going, they'll, this is just some other thing that's going on.
And incidentally, the fan was called for interference. Darno could have caught that ball, possibly, although he needed about a step and a half to get to it. The batter was the Phillies' Cody Ash. He was ruled out on that, so maybe that's why Darno gave the fan a kiss.
Could be.
So interesting story there. Baseball. Gary, you have one of the big phenomenons of baseball,
what that was,
and around the world, for that matter.
Well, Rich, I don't know what that was, but the biggest craze going on now around the world is this Pokemon Go thing, and it's a long article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it just shows you how these ball teams and these marketing departments can jump on this. The ad you're seeing now is a past ad for the Durham Bulls, famous from the movie, and Bull Durham, and they had a Pokemon night, catch Pokemon on the Durham Bulls Athletic Park field Tuesday, July 12th. And they are not the only one doing this sort of thing. As we, just check your local papers. The Columbus Clippers of AAA International League followed the Bulls with a similar promotion. They opened 2 hours earlier, and you could go in and catch Pokemon. The Omaha Storm Chasers of the Class A Pacific Coast League and the Gwinnett Braves, also the International League, got in on the action. The Midland Rockhounds, the AA Texas League team, got into it. The Jackson Generals, even the Milwaukee Brewers had one just the other day. So it's a long article. You can read it if you're interested at Ballpark Digest, but it's a new phenomenon that's taking over, Rich, and it's Pokemon. And even at my daughter plays it, and at the Cyclones game the other day, last week, she was going around and collecting. It wasn't a promotional night, but apparently around the area in Coney Island, there was Pokemons that you could catch, or whatever they call it, or whatever they do with them. I don't know. And now baseball's getting into it, Rich.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I started hearing about this probably a month ago, maybe even a month and a half ago. But a lot of the stories that I've heard about it are people like walking off of cliffs. They're looking at their cell phones. They're falling off of bridges. People getting maimed and killed over this video game, so to speak. And it was a mystery to me. It still is. But yeah, a lot of negative stuff came out of that right off the bat. So maybe it's better that they do go to a ballpark chasing these
Yeah.
invisible figurines around, I guess you could say, because at least they can't walk off the side of a mountain.
Well, that's a good point, Rich. In the confines of a baseball diamond, they could run into the wall, I guess. But I don't know how they set it up. I don't know anything about this. I was getting an explanation, and I have to say it's a bit on the confusing side. But I'm sure there's fans out there that play Pokemon, and they will be happy that just keep your eye peeled that it may be coming to a baseball stadium near you.
Yes, indeed. And a little business side note on this. Initially, Pokemon caused Nintendo's market value to shoot up, shot up by $7.5 billion on July 11th, just after Pokemon Go went public. Became, of course, an instant hit across the globe. You can see even Arabs and Saudi Arabians playing it over in their home country. It nearly added $12 billion to Nintendo's market value, but in the last couple of days, it's been realized that Nintendo probably won't see a big profit from that, so they lost $6.5 billion on their market value just this past Monday. So I guess fortunes come and go, but the monetizing of Pokemon they're worried about more or less right now. So it's amazing how these things just burst onto the scene and generate billions of dollars.
Well, Pokemon's been around a while now, and this is just the new resurrection of it. Maybe they're just trying to, they probably sell figures that they license, and people buy that stuff and stuffed animals and all kinds of stuff. So I'm sure that stuff they'll make some of the money back on that. I don't know how they monetize this. It's a free game, and I think they go into it knowing the whole idea is to sell the brand, I guess, of Pokemon and not really make the money off of the game per se. Though I'm sure there's probably pop-up ads in it, and that'll help monetize it.
Yes, indeed. So we wished we had a few shares of that stock when it first came out. Well, looking forward to next year's All-Star Game. Gary, you already have a preview on one of my favorite parts of the All-Star Game, and that's the logo.
Yeah, Rich, in conjunction with Major League Baseball, the Miami Marlins unveiled the logo for the 2017 MLB All-Star Game, and it is scheduled for Tuesday, July 11th at Marlins Park. There was a lot of local dignitaries as well as representatives from the team and the MLB on hand, and the Marlins unveiled the logo that is reflective of Marlins Park and Miami, and next year's game will be the first to be played in that city, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting, and they'll have the whole fanfare and everything. The logo is a sleek and modern look. It echoes the stunning contemporary feeling of the facade and interior of Marlins Park. A metallic star incorporates the club's Marlin and their vibrant team colors, including red-orange, symbolic of Miami sunset and the citrus industry, and yellow highlighting, which stands for the region's sunshine, and blue representing the sky and the sea surrounding Miami. So Commissioner Rob Manfred was there, and he said Major League Baseball is very pleased to bring the All-Star Game to Miami for the first time in 2017. We look forward to celebrating our global sport in a true gateway to Latin America and one of our game's most unique ballparks. So it should be fun next year having it at Marlins Park, and I believe that next year the National League are the home team again. Because as you know, this year they played it in the National League ballpark, but they were the away team because who knows why they decided to do that. They're trying to keep it. I guess an American League ballpark doesn't want the game or something. I don't know.
Well, I'd like to say that they did a wonderful job with that logo. I really like it. It's got that Marlin look to it up top, nice colors on it. and it's not overdone. It's not something that's not visually appealing, I guess you could say. All-star game right in the middle of it, 2017 Miami. I like that. Very nicely done on that.
Yeah, it's pretty sharp. Sharp looking logo. And as you say, Rich, they did a very good job on it. July 11th, right? Is that what July 11th at Mullins Park. 1 year from a couple of weeks ago.
Looking forward to it already. As we talk about the trade deadline here coming up very quickly, we'll have some new Twitter feeds for you to follow, of course, with our new name of the show. We'll be announcing that as time goes on, of course. And hopefully everybody likes the new format, because I'm looking forward to getting started with it. As Gary said, we're going to try to get some guests on, some authors, people like that. So we'll be going back and forth between our formats. Of course, a lot of the news and the current events that we cover as well for you. And our story here turns to a new baseball villain, but he's not really a bad villain. And this article circulated around a day or so ago, Gary, out of the Washington Post, and it says, the Reds' Joey Votto, is he the super villain that baseball needs? Of course, those that know Votto know that in the last couple of series, he's been ribbed here and there. One time in Philadelphia, somebody was yelling at him about his small feet, quote unquote. He wears a size 13. So they were razzing him about that. And he caught a foul ball and made like he was going to toss it into the crowd. But he teased him and, double pumped or triple pumped on it and then threw the ball back into the field. So Joey Votto there having fun with the crowd. He's done it in several cities, of course, mainly where he's being ribbed a little bit from fans. But he's not like your typical guy that's going to be real obnoxious going after him. But he fakes like he's going to throw him a ball and ends up not doing it. So I think we found a new baseball villain that we could all kind of like.
I guess Jonathan Papelbon wasn't available, or Bryce Harper. Too many. Maybe there's too many superhero sequels, so we got to have a super villain. So I guess it should be, or it might as well be Joey Votto, as long as it's playful and, as you say, it doesn't reach the nasty level like a Papelbon type of guy gets.
Yeah, he's having more fun with the crowd. He had a quote here saying, a high percentage of the guys and ladies and kids on the first base side were smiling and laughing at the Phillies game. He went on to say, fair game. I happened to pop in during the game, and on TV the theme was that I didn't want to give a ball to a kid, which is definitely not the case. I made a point not to give a ball to an adult that was giving me a hard time. So I think everybody understood that in Philly, and it came off very good, as opposed to, like you said, Papelbon with his very aggressive stance towards the fans at times. And I think we've found a villain that we could actually deal with.
Yeah, one that we could all, get behind, I guess.
Exactly. So, Joey Votto, that one's for you, and thanks for being such a good sport about it.
There you go. Way to go, Joey.
And this show, we always bring up some interesting stories, of course, and this one is no different. And this one has some goats involved.
Well, Rich, this is really, it's a really kind of a sad story in a way. Hartford, Connecticut has a team in the Class A Eastern League called the Hartford Yard Goats. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they just moved. This is their first year there, or anyway, a long story short, they were building a park there. The city of Hartford, along with the construction company, were building a park called Dunkin' Donuts Park, and the place is like 92% completed. But the town decided to fire the construction company because they did not make deadlines. Some deadlines that Hartford was looking, it was in the contract. So technically, now they're getting sued by the contractor. He's filing suit against the yard goats. He's also already sued the city, and he's saying that the team interfered with their attempts to finish construction of the ballpark. Technically, they are accused of interference with the contractual relationship and a violation of state unfair trade practices, as well as demanding changes to the ballpark that caused Center Plan Construction Company and Dono Hartford to miss 2 construction deadlines, leading to a snowball of delays. Now, where it gets sad for the city now is now they have this ballpark that nobody can go into. They can't use. Hartford has played, for the most part, on the road all year. And now, citing a clause in their contract, the president, Josh Solomon of the Hartford Yard Goats, says they may leave the city if the ballpark is not ready for 2017. Last week, the Eastern League took the initiative to schedule all the remaining Yard Goats home games on the road. And meanwhile, a terminated contract and a subsequent legal dispute between the city of Hartford and developers has prevented work from continuing on the ballpark. So a lot of frustration, and now they're considering leaving Hartford unless something can get resolved and something that can get done on this. And it's really a shame because I don't have a picture of the ballpark. I meant to get one. It skipped my mind, but it's really a nice looking minor league ballpark. And, you look at it, you say, well, why can't they play there? But of course there are internal stuff. It has to meet certain city requirements and all, and I don't know where that stands at this point in time. So, but just a shame, and now they're in danger of losing the team completely. Now, they have played some of their games in Connecticut this year, home games. They played at in Norwich at the home of the Connecticut Tigers of the New York Penn League. They played some games. They played some games in another location, but they were really looking to move in about halfway through the season into their own home. And now that's taken away for the rest of the year. And the Eastern League goes until, they play like 140 game schedule, 125 game schedule, something in that area. So really, really a shame. And, you hate to see them leave a town like that has supported their team. And it's not for any reason other than they can't get together to finish this ballpark.
Yeah, and it's very neat looking. Ballpark, 6,000 seats. The construction company has filed a cross complaint saying that its owner of the Hartford Yard Goats owner, Josh Solomon, insisted on changes to the design several times in the last late stages of the ballpark and made them miss 2 deadlines for completing the project on time. So there's always another side to the story. Hopefully they can make it through this. As you said, Gary, I know a lot of cities would love to have a ball team in it. Not too crazy about the Yard Goats name, but what can you do?
Yeah, well, I don't know. But as you say, it is a nice looking stadium, and it's just a shame that the mess that it's going through. And I think that's really the point of the story, that that we have all of this involvement in such a wonderful game. But it is a business, and these aspects of it do creep in, and it is what it is.
And Yard Goats, if you're listening to the show, there's a nice stadium that's empty in Atlantic City. Would probably, you might have to put $1 million into it to bring it up to modern day code, but I'm sure Atlantic City would be listening to you if you happen to call them and wanted to move there.
Well, now the only problem with that would be territorial rights with the Phillies.
Right. Yeah, I'm not too sure how that would work out, but just saying, Atlantic City has a nice stadium. Probably put $1 million into it, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, the former home of the Surf, right?
Yeah, the Atlantic City Surf. It's been sitting dormant for the last couple of years. There was talk that they may improve it, so on and so forth. Nobody stepped forward yet, so I'm sure they would entertain some offers for that.
And Hartford is the an affiliate of the Colorado Rockies.
So there would be no problem to bring that team to the South Jersey area. So interesting how those things develop. Well, we want to thank all our listeners for hanging in with us here on the MLB This Week show, our podcast number 100. Of course, next show, you'll hear a new name, the Baseball Talk Radio Show. And I kind of like the name of that.
Yeah, I do too, Rich. Kind of rolls off the tongue, and we'll have to see about, don't know about the music yet or anything, but we'll figure out something.
Yes, we will, as we usually do. And well, Gary, have a great week. Next show, we'll be talking all about the trade deadline, which by then, of course, will be over. We'll get to see who goes where, whose teams improved from it, whose teams might have slipped, and we'll be talking some more great baseball talk.
Looking forward to it, Rich. See you then.